Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit falls 4-3 in overtime despite Ville Husso's best efforts. They extend their losing streak to 6 straight, but they do stop Alex Ovechkin from getting his 801st goal, which would have tied Gordie Howe for second all-time.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I am a podcast producer for the Daily JWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty is a freelance journalist for the Detroit News and host of Locked On Tigers. Red Wings fell 4-3 in overtime, extending their losing streak to 6 straight. But they do manage to stop Alex Ovechkin from getting that 801st goal, which would have tied him for second of all time against with Gordie Howe. Why'd you just wave to me?
No, I was like, oh, yay. Like,
oh,
you
were waving to me. I'm like, hi.
No. No, I wasn't. I would always wave to you, Brian, but that's not what I was doing. No, I don't know. Like, cool, I guess. But I would much rather have 2 points and like, oh, we gave up 801 than losing our, 6th straight?
Yeah, 6th straight. So we'll get into that. But first, there's a trade that happened earlier in the day that we got to quote unquote break down. There's not much to break down. The Red Wings traded AHL depth forward Givani Smith to the Florida Panthers for Michael Del Zotto. And when I first read the tweet and I said, oh, they got Michael Del Zotto back. That's a serviceable D-man. He's nothing great anymore, but he's a serviceable D-man. And then I saw the second half of that tweet. It's like, and they immediately traded him to the Anaheim Ducks for Danny O'Regan. I went, who? And Danny O'Regan, 28 years old, born in Berlin, Germany, but is also got American nationality too. He's a center/left wing, right-handed shot, has all of, I think, 6 games played in the NHL level. This season, he's played all 27 games with the San Diego Gulls of the AHL, has 18 points in that span. So I think the main reason this trade happened is because you wanted to get a right-handed center in somewhere in your organizational depth. That's the only reason I can figure you instigate this trade whatsoever.
Yeah. He so in the last 3 years, he only has 5 games played in the NHL, but he was up for about 20 games in 17-18, 21 games for in 17-18. So still like less than 30 games, but a little bit more there when he was a little bit younger. Yeah, this is a depth forward in his late 20s, and it's a dude that I think, I mean, as everybody is aware, I am a massive Givani Smith fan, and I am heartbroken to see him go. But when looking at the optics of this deal, I think that it's pretty much just, Givani Smith, he is what he is play style wise. Like you know that you're getting an enforcer, a physical presence, and he's still has age on his side, I would say, and some other teams clearly are willing to give him a chance to maybe develop more into a role where he can produce more on the ice, like actually get some more production when it comes to like points and like stat sheet numbers. But I think the Wings kind of just looked at it as they needed a depth forward that more fit what they were trying to do and had more proven production at the kind of, that I always call it 4A because baseball is like the first thing that pops in my mind. But, that like fringe, in between AHL and NHL talent, if you can get somebody that has proven that they can produce. I mean, he has some pretty darn good numbers offensively when it comes to production over the last few years at the AHL. So I think that this was just you can get a forward. It's a depth forward still, but you can get a forward that has a little bit more proven production and just in point totals in general.
And there you have it. There's your breakdown of that trade.
I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I'm heartbroken. Like, Givani's obviously a huge fan favorite, and I myself was obviously part of that, so really sad. But just that's what happens. Like that's this team thought that Yzerman and this front office thought that they needed more production out of or they think you get an upgrade production wise at a depth position, and so they pulled the trigger.
Well, and I mean, as far as impact on the NHL roster, I don't think you really see him unless enough centers go down. Because you got to
Yeah,
remember,
absolutely. Yeah.
you know, you have 5 centers on your team, basically one guy rotating on wing every night at this point. So you'd have to lose 2 of those centers for him to even get a sniff. But even at that
Sure.
point, I mean, Robbie Fabry's going to be back soon. Then you're going to have 6 centers on your roster. So the only thing that he's got is right-handed shot, which Red Wings desperately need for the face-off circle. So maybe if an injury
Yeah.
happens, but
His
I feel
faceoff
like that's
numbers.
even a stretch.
Yeah, his faceoff numbers in the NHL, again, it's like less than 30 games, but at the NHL level aren't bad. I very difficult to find AHL faceoff numbers, believe it or not, but his
Well, I'm shocked.
I know. But his point production is not bad in the A, and his faceoff numbers aren't terrible career wise for the few opportunities he's had in the faceoff circle at the NHL level. So if that's another strong suit, like you said, then he just fits the mold of kind of what we need and what depth pieces we need even more. So
Yeah. So let's transition now to talking about the game that happened last night. By the time people are listening to this, where do you want to lead off? I feel like
we
despite
should just
how
get Ovechkin like
you
over
want to
with.
just let's get
Yeah.
Ovechkin over with. So obviously everyone knows Ovechkin was sitting at 800 coming into the night, one behind Mr. Hockey. And obviously this was Mr. Hockey's team. And so people thought it would be poetic. We were talking about it yesterday. The narrative, it felt scripted that he would tie and or break that narrative or that second of all time against the Red Wings. And it wasn't shy of trying. Like he tried really hard.
He posted one.
Yeah, he did. And the Red Wings played, I thought, pretty tight on him. They obviously felt motivated not to let that happen. Ironically enough, though, Scotty, the team that Gordie Howe scored his final regular season goal against, his 801st goal, was against the Detroit Red Wings when he was with the Hartford Whalers. So I had a tweet ready to go if Ovi did it, and I said there have been 3 players in the NHL who have scored 800 or more goals. Gordie Howe and Alex Ovechkin scored that 801st goal against the Red Wings, and I had that ready to go because it's just that the kind of ironic, but thankfully, I say thankfully it didn't happen. I know there were some Red Wings fans who were kind of rooting for it because they thought that it would have been poetic, but I mean, I was just dreading the whole game that this was going to be it, and it was just a dagger to the heart I didn't need.
The second that they went into overtime, I was getting ready to go on an entire just rant about the NHL script writers. I was ready. I was so ready. I thought it was just wrapped, sealed, shipped. He was scoring the OT game winner. I know Nolan tweeted the same thing. Like I was so unbelievably prepared for Ovi to score the game winner in overtime. But yeah, alas, they did, for whatever that's worth. So I know everybody kind of views it differently, as you said, and everybody has a different opinion of the, I guess, magnitude you'd call it. But I don't know. For whatever it's worth to you, subjectively, they didn't allow 801 tonight. So
yeah, thankfully they did not. He will go on to get it, and I have a gut feeling at this point, if he stays healthy, he's going to go on to pass Alexander Ovechkin, pass Wayne Gretzky for most all time. But did not happen tonight. I don't think it'll happen against the Wings this season. They do play one more time in February, but by then he should be well past 801. So sigh of relief if you're on my side where you didn't want that to happen. Let's go to a little bit of an early break. We're only 9 minutes in. It's still kind of right around the wheelhouse. When we come back, we'll get into the games. I actually want to lead off the game breakdown with a major positive note because I feel like on a 6-game losing streak, we're just so desperate for a positive note. And we'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I got to talk to you guys today about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and the World Cup. I placed a bet on Argentina, and I thought I had won, but it turns out that the shootout does not count into the final. So I lost the bet because the game technically ended 3-3. So I was not happy about that. We've got it all at betonline.net. Huh?
Why would you think that? You're a hockey fan. You thought it was just different?
Yeah, because in the NHL, when it goes to a shootout, and somebody wins, they put another goal up. So it's going to be like,
I thought you meant like each goal. I was like, what on earth are you talking
no,
about? Okay, that I can understand.
I bet outright Argentina was going to win because they were the underdogs. And I was like, they're going to win it for Lionel. They're going to win it for Messi. And
Well, they did.
They did. And that's why I bet on them to win. And they did win. But I didn't win because they had to win in 90 minutes plus. It did not account for the shootout, the penalty shoots.
Count for a lot of that.
Because the game technically ends 3-3 and then 4-2 or whatever it was in the penalty kicks.
That's so brutal.
That I was so pissed when I went to the app to look up the money out and I was like, what? Whatever. They've got it all at betonline.net. That's what I get for not being a soccer fan. If you love sports podcasts, they've got it at BetOnline as well. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about the game against the Capitals. We're truly getting into it now, and I want to lead off talking about Ville Husso, because if there's ever a bright spot in this game, it was Ville Husso, and he shined so bright. He was, 42 shots on net, 4 goals allowed. He is the sole reason the Detroit Red Wings registered a point, and he has been the sole reason they have registered points in almost every single one of these games this season. The fact that they escaped from Washington getting shelled the way they did with 1 point is solely because of Ville Husso. And I feel like I've said that time and time again, because this team played dog crap defense in front of him. Not even just the defense, but the offense in the defensive zone, just the defensive scheme in general. They just collapsed. Eyes followed the puck. Guy back door was open. Ville Husso shut the door. The fact that they got a point was Ville Husso, and I honestly am beginning to believe, because it's different than with Nedeljkovic last year. Nedeljkovic would show us these bright spots, right, Scotty? He'd be super great one night and then super bad the next night. He'd be inconsistent and finish just above 900 save percentage. Ville Husso has not shown that this season. He's had 1 or 2 iffy games, but so far this season, Ville Husso has been phenomenal. And I'm really starting to believe that the Red Wings may have found their starter, like bona fide starter going forward in Ville Husso. Because despite how poor this team has been playing in front of him and how often they throw him out there night after night after night, he does not crack. And it's just, he's been an absolute treat to watch. And I'm watching them lose their 6th straight game and get shelled and lose in overtime again for what feels like the 1,000th time. And yet I'm walking away going, man, I love this guy. Ville Husso he's the dog.
He is the dog. That's absolutely correct. You know, I want to answer in like the scope of this season and in the future, because like this season, I would argue that he has been, if you want to do pure like most valuable player, is there anyone that even comes close?
Oh, not
on
even.
this team? No, he is the biggest reason as to why the Wings even find themselves where they are currently in the standings. Nonetheless, the hot start that they got off to earlier in the season. Like he has been easily the most valuable player up to this point for the Red Wings. And when looking at the future, like you said, I don't know, maybe I just have like trust issues. My therapist says I do. So maybe it's just like, I'm like, it's too soon for me to be like, yeah, like he's just going to be like this good forever. But I think that you at least have somebody who you are having that discussion about. Like you're at least having like, hey man, you know, when you're at the bar with your buddies or you're chopping up with somebody and you're talking about the future of the Wings, like you're at least having that conversation of like, this dude might be the truth. Like this dude might be the future of the Detroit Red Wings in that. And I know that they have like Kosa and everybody has an opinion on him and whatnot. And Ned hasn't had a very good season this year, but that future of the goalie position, as far as the Detroit Red Wings go, runs through Ville Husso until proven otherwise. And that I think is objectively true.
Yeah. I mean, at least near future. You know, we talk about the development timeline for guys like Sebastian Kosa, and goalies take a while typically.
Yeah, well, that my point is like, no matter who they add, whether it's free agency, whether it's more trades, which like the last 2 goalies we've added as well, I guess waivers, but like, you get what I'm saying? Like prominent goalies we've had have been through trade. And like, well, obviously we drafted one. Like no matter what goalies we get in the future, my point is just that even if you're like me and you're like, oh, I don't know about like, 3 years from now, like how confident whatever, maybe not that I'm not confident in him, but just that I'm still like reserved. Okay, let me see it maybe over a full season. Like we're not even halfway through year one. But the point is, no matter who they add, they have to outplay Ville Husso to overtake the job. Like that's
Absolutely.
solidified and that's concrete and absolutely true. And so far this season, he has absolutely been the truth.
He has been just the best player on the Red Wings without
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
shadow
Easily
of
the
a
most
doubt.
valuable.
Because you look at everyone else on the team, Dominic Kubalik has cooled off. Dylan Larkin
Yeah,
has
big time.
cooled off, slightly injured. Actually, Dylan Larkin played pretty well in this game, but he's cooled
Yeah, I thought
off.
so too.
Every single player that started off the season hot has cooled off, except for Philip Hronek, who continued, heated up as the season's gone on and had another really great opportunity in overtime. So Ville Husso has been the sole player who has been consistently lights out every single game for this team and gives them a shot to win. He gave them a shot to win in a game where they got outshot, Scotty, 42-19. With extra time, the Red Wings did not cross the 20-goal threshold. The 20-shot threshold, rather.
Yeah.
And Ville Husso forced overtime. I just, against the team with Alex Ovechkin, who's trying to chase history.
Right.
It's just, I cannot fathom how good of a goaltender he is, and I hope people appreciate it. I've actually seen comments on our YouTube the last couple days about people saying that the Red Wings need to trade assets to get a goaltender. And I don't get it. I know the backup position is suspect right now, but Ville Husso has been phenomenal. He comes into the game with, I think like a 915 save percentage. And I know, granted, it'll technically come down after this game because he allowed four goals on 42 shots, but he shouldn't have faced 42 shots to begin with. That's not on him. He had a 905 save percentage in this game. So you don't have to trade assets for any goaltender. You got a goaltender now, and then you have a guy developing. Like this, you're fine in this position. This is the only position you are fine at right now. Like, relax.
This
Who
team,
shows him?
I have similar conversations when discussing the Tigers offseason, and it's just like this team has significantly bigger holes to fill. Like this should be the least of your worries, right? If you were to rank the team needs of the Detroit Red Wings, I don't think another goaltender would be very high at the present moment because of how often he's able to play and how good night in and night out each performance is of Ville Husso.
Absolutely. I also want to give out a shout out to Jake Walman. Jake Walman with added responsibility on his shoulders, playing with Philip Hronek in this game. Last two games,
chippy too. A little
he's
chirp.
chippy, and he shows real flashes. He made a nice diving play to break up a one-timer pass to Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Then in the offensive zone,
He was in his spot too.
He's a really quick skater. He's a very fluid skater. He can break into the zone seamlessly. He has an absolute rocket of a shot. He shows flashes I get comments on our replies to my Twitter as well of people asking me, like, why don't they break up Sherratt and Seider and give Walman a chance up in the lineup? And honestly, with how Walman's been playing and how poor that pair of Seider and Sherratt has been playing together, I give it a shot, because at what point do you just cut your losses on that pair? I mean, this team's playing so poorly on this stretch. If it's not one thing, it's the other. It's a 6-game losing streak, one way or the other. Shake things up a little bit. See what clicks, because Sherratt and Seider ain't it. It's not been working, but Walman has been great. Hronek has been great. Mata's still getting his lungs back, has been still pretty damn good. So shake things up. Shake your top pair up. I want to see Mata with Seider, because I think Mata in the back end would give Seider the confidence he needs to, be a little bit more creative with the puck. I think putting Walman with Seider would be a dynamic offensive duel like you're seeing with Phil Hronek. I think you would sacrifice a little bit of defense on that regard. But, I mean, it's depending on what you're trying to get out of Seider and what you're trying to get out of a pair with him. But right now, Sherratt and Seider, it's just not working. They're not covering for each other's mistakes. It's just they're both trying to play the same brand of hockey, and they're leaving one another hanging. So it's just you got to change things up. And Jake Walman, in a game where the Red Wings got outshot 42-19, had an expected goals for percentage that led the team at 5-on-5 of 56.10 and a Corsi for percentage of 57.58. The only Red Wing on the team with a positive Corsi for percentage at even strength, the only Red Wing on the team, was Jake Walman with 19 shot attempts for versus 14 shot attempts against when he was on the ice. I mean, he's been great these last 2 games, and I'm not trying to get too high on him, Scotty, because I know he's just a flashy player. He does this sometimes, but if he's playing well, give him the opportunity. You got him on the second pair, keep him there as long as he keeps playing well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, man, like this is a chance where this is a period in time in this season where I think everyone is pro them like mixing things up a little bit,
Something's
and
got to change.
yeah, that can absolutely be one of those things. I'm all for it. I would love to see Walman get more ice time.
Cool. When we come back, we'll talk about the negatives in this game, and oh, buddy, were there a lot of them.
Oh,
So stay tuned to Lockdown Red Wings. Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty, did you have any other positives you wanted to bring? If
No,
anything,
I think that's 1 and 2. We talked about it a little bit off air beforehand. I didn't think Kopp looked that bad in this game. I thought he
yeah.
was solid.
He obviously had the assist on the 2-on-1 goal for Lucas Raymond, which
Yeah,
was
that
nice
play
to
was
see.
a beauty all around. But yeah, I mean, like no one was really great defensively, so I guess like maybe not in that regard. But I thought the few opportunities that they had offensively, he seemed to be in the mix for almost all of them. So whatever that's worth.
Well, the Red Wings obviously just let's start with this. So the Red Wings played really hard in the first period. They played very tight. Washington still had the edge in shots and shot attempts, but that was fine. They played them very tight and walked away the first period with a 2-0 lead. I thought that was purely because they wanted to prevent Ovi from getting 801, which is fine. If you need a motivator, that's as good of a motivator as any.
Sure.
But second period comes around and Washington steps on your throat. It was just pure suffocation for the rest of the game. And while it was great to see the Red Wings get that power play goal, Oscar Sundqvist, great feed by Jonatan Berggren, by the way. That's another bright spot, too. There are some
He
small
looked
bright
good.
spots.
Yeah,
Berggren
yeah.
continues, man.
He's a great skater, man. And like
Yeah.
I think the more
Vision.
right, yeah, like the more ice time he gets, the more like everyone else is starting to see he's like a crafty skater. Like he will squeeze his way through like tight spaces like it's nothing, man. It's really impressive.
Yeah, Berggren is, I think, got top 6 potential. He's proved it night in and night out, and he's getting top 6 minutes in some of these games, and then on the power play as well. But outside of that one power play, they couldn't get anything going on the rest of their power plays. The Washington Capitals just absolutely stifled you by playing very aggressive on the forecheck, on their penalty kill. And the Red Wings, without time, didn't know what to do and would just often cough the puck up. And the same could be said at 5-on-5 as well, as every time the Red Wings, let's say the Red Wings on an off chance did get into the offensive zone and establish pressure, the Capitals swarmed them. They were suffocating them. But most of the time, the Red Wings couldn't even enter the offensive zone because the Washington Capitals would stuff the neutral zone up and prevent entry. And then in the defensive zone, the Red Wings would collapse down low around Husso, and the Washington Capitals would just run a circuit around the Red Wings in their own defensive zone. And, it wasn't just defense. Everyone was puck watching. Nobody was looking where the puck could go, just where the puck was at the time. And it was probably one of the worst performances I've seen the Red Wings do team-wise. Like, there was just nothing was clicking. They were just chasing the entire game, it felt like. And it shows on the stat sheet. I mean, 19 shots to 42.
Yeah, not great, man. No, I thought that the first period was a lot better than the second and third, but the second and third were really brutal. So like that's really not saying much. But I did think that for whatever it's worth, I guess the first period wasn't terrible. But yeah, no, I mean this was just we've talked about it a lot, not only during this losing streak, but really all season. Like this team, aside from being wildly inconsistent, has had opportunities to take steps forward and has had opportunities to like strike and has had opportunities to get 2 points. And whether it's the third period, whether it's the second and third period, or whether it's all 3 periods, there's always like a little bit of a letdown at some point in the game. And in this one, it just came a little bit sooner than maybe it has in some other games that we've talked about this season.
Well, and we talk about goals with bunches too. I mean,
Oh my
Dowd
gosh,
scoring 2
man.
goals
Yeah,
11 seconds
ridiculous,
apart.
dude.
They're just all momentum just immediately got stifled. And then Lucas Raymond puts them up 3-2 in the third period. And then 70 seconds later, Gustafsson gets it right back. It's just
Yeah.
the
Well, and
inability to
yeah,
hold
yeah.
on to a lead is crazy. And
Yeah.
normally when we talk goals in bunches, we talk about it against Nedeljkovic. And I'm not faulting Husso. He stood on his head in this game. And I don't think a single one of his goals was a softie in this whatsoever. I mean, the game tying goal in the third was a one-timer backdoor. The second goal of the game was a tip right out in front, no defenseman covering him. And the first goal was just a really great shot. And then obviously the overtimer was a one-timer as well. There wasn't a single soft goal that Husso let up in this game. It's just that when the Red Wings give up one goal, they're prone to give another one right after that. And when the Red Wings score a goal, they're prone to let off the gas and immediately collapse defensively. So these are the primary reasons. Well, primary reasons. The team as a whole right now is the primary reason why they're on a 6-game losing streak. We talked about the loss the other night. Special teams collapsed against the Ottawa Senators. They played really good 5-on-5 hockey, but then the special teams collapsed. 3 power play goals for the Senators, 2 shorthanded goals for the Senators. In this game, you shut out the Washington Capitals, who are a much better team on their power plays. They went 0-for on their power plays, and you scored one power play goal of your own. But at 5-on-5, they just creamed you. They were too good. So we talk about it, but if it's not one thing, it's the other with this team. We can't marry the special team successes with the 5-on-5 successes. It's one thing or the other. The only constant every single game, Ville Husso.
That is pretty much it. That and like the fact that it is inconsistent. Like that's pretty much the only consistent things are inconsistency and Ville Husso. That's pretty much it on a night-to-night basis. But no, and look, like it won't, like we're not going to lose out. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
Like
obviously
there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will have some winning games to talk about, hopefully relatively soon. But I mean, golly, man, I'm tired of.
it's frustrating.
Point. And like we did, like objectively, like we got unbelievably outplayed and still walked away with a point for whatever that's worth, and that's fine, I guess. But I'm tired of saying that.
No, I 100% agree with you, man. It gets frustrating after a while. I mean, regardless, point or no point, it is still a 6-game losing streak.
Right.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. It is, especially with how well this Red Wings team started the season. And, I hate to say it because I don't want to say it, but it shows flashes of what we saw last year. Despite the roster, even with the injuries, this roster is on paper a better team. But the only thing that this team is missing right now is night after night blowout losses. At least they're keeping the game somewhat close. They've had a couple blowout losses, but right now these big stretches where they win, the stretches where they lost, and in the losses they get completely outplayed. The only difference is the score is close because Ville Husso is fantastic. I mean, it begins to show colors of last season, and that does scare me. Do I think that they'll continue this trend? No, I don't. But what is it going to take to change it? What is it going to take for the Red Wings to take momentum back? Obviously, they're going to have to win a game, but is it going to take a change in the way they run their scheme? Is it going to take a change on the lineups? Is it going to take a change on, who you're putting out there on the power play or penalty kill? I don't know. I don't have those answers. If I had those answers, I'd probably be behind the NHL bench, but I'm not. I'm a podcaster. And so right now, all I can do is watch the Red Wings and just hope that one of these days they break the losing streak and they start to build momentum back forward again. But I mean, we talk about expectations. Obviously, the 6-game losing streak is never the expectation, but they're right where in the standings we kind of thought they would be. And you would hope that it would be because that they're just playing consistently at that level and not because they'd go on 4-game heaters and then fall apart. But it's a crappy way to be where your expectations are, but this is kind of where I thought the team would be. The analytics showed early on the season when they were playing hot, and we kind of turned a blind eye because they were playing so well, even though we tried not to. We tried to be realistic, and we said multiple times that it's not a winning formula, but they're winning games, so we're going to take it. We said that multiple times, but we saw that eventually things would crumble, teams would figure it out, and the Red Wings would start losing hockey games. So until they can figure out how to play even hockey through 60 minutes and play,
that's the biggest thing.
yeah,
that we talk about it even when they do I just said it like 5-6 minutes ago. Like even when we do outplay someone on 5-on-5, they don't in the last 10 minutes of the third. Like it's like there's always at some point. Some nights it's after the first period, like tonight, and sometimes it's with 10 minutes left in the game. But there's always a letdown at some point, even on the games that they do seem to have it all together, and it's just it's really frustrating, and that's the next step in development. Like you said, this is pretty much where we expected this team to be standings wise ish, and I don't expect them to plummet in the rest of the season, but I don't expect them to make a huge climb either. And I think that that's just where we are developmentally, and then
Mhm.
I know people are starting to get a little impatient and just want a winner so badly, and
It's just not even the Red
us
Wings
more
in
than
general.
anybody. But
It's not even just isolated to the Red Wings. Like, it's the city of Detroit that just so
yeah,
desperately
no,
wants a winner. Like, thank
absolutely, yeah.
God the Lions are 7-7 now and chasing a playoff spot.
You drinking
Like,
the Kool-Aid yet? You said they
oh,
had to win this week.
I said if they got to 7-7, I would drink the Kool-Aid. So I'm drinking the
All right,
Kool-Aid now.
let's ride.
But yeah, when it comes to Red Wings, if you're looking towards the future, bright spot, Vrana out of the non-contact jersey.
Yep.
That news came out after we recorded on
Says he's day
Sunday.
to day.
He is day to day, just basically whenever Lalone feels he is ready to play in an NHL game. So
Yep.
he is active and he is on the cusp of returning. So look forward to that. Austin or Zarnik was put on waivers
Oh yeah.
and made it through waivers, but did not get sent down. He played. Imagine it's a preemptive move for when Vrana is ready to come back.
Yeah.
So Zarnik's going to continue to play until Vrana can play, and then he'll get sent down. Cleared waivers already, so he can just be sent down. But yeah, that wraps it up, guys. It wasn't pretty. They got a point. It wasn't pretty. Thank Ville Husso. God bless Ville Husso. Ville Husso for Vesna.
The truth.
So, any final thoughts, man?
We ball.
One pride, baby. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow, previewing the game against
BetOnline.
the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to the game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, in fact. So if you guys see me
Nice.
there on Wednesday, say hi. Or don't. Your prerogative. We'll be back then tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.